Hey guys, welcome to another Meditation Amsterdam video. My name is Pablo, and today I want to discuss and give a very direct pointer to how it feels when you are doing spirituality correctly, if it can be done at all. And this comes from a few thoughts that have been popping in my mind as of late, especially about self-inquiry and what it feels like when you are finally getting around the ego. For a very long time, when we start to grapple with spirituality, practice meditation, and all these kind of things, we'll be coming from an egoic perspective. And then we keep trying to catch ourselves doing this. And we keep failing at it because the one trying to do the catching is also the ego. And then the question comes up, does that mean that I can really do nothing about it? It seems that whatever I do, it's egoic, and doing nothing doesn't really get me to enlightenment or self-realization. So what can I do? It's a very valid question. And the short and most direct answer that I can come up with is to not bother too much with what you're doing or not doing, not bother too much with what you are thinking and whether those thoughts are egoic in nature or not, or what your emotions are, and whether they are good emotions or bad emotions, or good intentions or bad intentions. All these are movements of the mind, and all movements of the mind are ultimately dictated by a core sense of self, which is geared towards self-preservation and feeling good, essentially. So the question of whether the movements are egoic or not is a little bit beside the point. The way to go about it, the thing to do, is to orient your attention towards that which is concerned, to the sense of self-concern, from which you would ask the question, am I meditating correctly? The sense of self-concern from which you would ask the question, is this thought egoic or not? The sense of self-concern from which you would ask the question, should I go on retreat? Or am I being correctly spiritual when I deal with this person in this relationship? Or how do I go about not letting the ego get the best of me? So let's take that one, which is a classic. How do I go about not letting the ego get the best of me? The answer to that question is, why would you want to know? And the answer to that one is, because I want things to pan out well for me. In other words, it comes from self-concern. So what you want to do is, rather than self-concern being hiding in the background, you want self-concern to come to the foreground and be exposed as what it is, which is just pure self-concern and selfishness. Finding all kinds of disguises and ultimately being made of all these disguises are disingenuous. They're just lies. And the lie at the center of self-concern, the big lie at the center of it all, is the lie, I am, or I am an individual. That lie, when we get close to exposing it, feels like pure shame. And so if we are doing self-inquiry correctly, and if we are doing spirituality correctly, it should constantly feel like we are chopping our legs off. It should constantly feel like we are undermining our sense of well-being and stability. it should feel like a big lie that we told and something really bad we did is right about to be exposed, or in fact being exposed, because there is a lie at the center of it all, and it is you. We are the lie at the center of all our endeavors, because we don't really exist. The sense of self is a disguise for pure self-interest and self-concern. And it acquires a certain, through obscuration, it is perceived to be a sense of individuality. But that sense of individuality is just it's a kind of disguise, it's a veil for pure self-interest. And so whenever you ask yourself, or whenever you start wondering, am I doing this correctly? Is this action egoic or not? Should I take that course of action? How should I decide to go for A or B, and which is the most spiritual option? Notice, take a pause, reorient your attention towards the one who claims to be grappling with things to figure out what is more spiritual, and keep digging and digging and digging until you get to the point of realizing that the real reason you are asking these questions and grappling, or trying to do this versus that, or trying to have a more wholesome thought, or trying to associate yourself with more wholesome people, every single thing is ultimately only ever coming from a place of self-concern, parading as a spiritual individual. And it should feel shameful. And the reason it feels shameful, as I said, is because it's a lie. There is no spiritual individual. There is only self-concern, parading as, or masquerading as, a spiritual individual. If there is no shame or discomfort being felt in the process, it means the ego is simply not being exposed. It's as simple as that. There should be a lot of discomfort in this. There should be a lot of uneasiness and ickiness, and all that. It should feel like you did something very wrong and you are getting ready to apologize and come clean. I don't know how often you've ever done that. True apology takes a lot of guts. A lot of guts. And this is what we're in for here. We are ready to come clean with the fact that every single bit of effort, every single mental tactic and negotiation and whatever we've done has been all a massive attempt at not being exposed as a false self. It should be gut-wrenching. You should wince at even the vicinity of this happening, because it should feel like you're chopping your own legs off. If it doesn't feel that way, something fishy is at hand. I've often criticized feel-good spirituality and even effortful grappling on a mental or emotional level is now under question, I would say. Anything other than feeling like you are existentially threatening your very own sense of self is not quite that. Now, it takes time to get to that level of sincerity, because it just happens that our sense of self and our sense of self-interest is directly tied with our survival psychosomatics. So this is a matter of life and death as far as the mind is concerned. We're not going to be allowed into the inner sanctum just like that. Okay, it takes time to really decouple discomfort from lack of safety. And it gets more and more uncomfortable the closer you get to the center of the heart. There's no way around it. For some people, it happens in a single go. Maybe there's less sensitivity there. Maybe there are less layers of trauma and things to grapple with. There may be many factors involved. For some people, awakening or getting to the center of the heart and dislodging the ego happens in a single go, and then they spend, as Eckhart Tolle did, 2 years living on a park bench, completely dysfunctional. So it might not be what you necessarily want to have happen. But at the end of the day, the lesson is about trying to chop off the root of the whole sense of self, and that root doesn't allow itself to be chopped just willy-nilly, because the entire mental apparatus is geared towards survival, and that survival circuitry is directly linked to self-preservation and self-concern. In the previous video, I was talking about how we are enamored with our ego, and it's got us by the short and curlies, right? So everything that we do is entirely geared towards serving egoic purposes, and how Nisargadatta Maharaj says that the ego dominates us completely. There is no shade of gray in this. We are completely dominated by it until we attain liberation. And so it is a workable assumption to simply go by the notion that everything you think is completely egoic in nature, and everything you do is ultimately, or in the ultimate analysis, coming from a place of self-concern, no matter how elegant or wholesome or adequate on a mental and emotional level it may be. And it is also an intelligent move not to try to deal with things on the level of thought and emotion. To try to negotiate with thoughts. Is this a good thought? Is this a bad thought? Oh, this emotion popped up. Now I need to, accept it, or I need to, accept the rejection of it, and all these tactical moves that, you may grapple with that for a while. But at the end of the day, if you can, to the degree that you do the cultivation and it leads you there, to deal with thoughts and emotions is really to negotiate all the time with a surface level of the mind, and to not notice that even that negotiation is coming from still an egoic sense of self. So you want to get to the point of only ever questioning and bringing to the foreground self-concern and fear masquerading as individuality. And just go there every single time, relentlessly. And it's pretty systematically uncomfortable. Energetics start to become more volatile and more interesting, let's put it like that. But it is direct work, it's direct inquiry every single time, ruthlessly and mercilessly exposing your self-interest behind every single movement of the mind. And the beauty of this is that even though it's more uncomfortable, more direct, and more tricky to get there, it is more effective in the sense that it requires far less negotiation. There's nothing to negotiate other than to observe self-concern and the fear of not pandering to it. And it's just about observing that, nothing else. So inquiry becomes much more single-minded, much more simple. There's no tactical back and forth anymore. It's just sitting with self-concern, sitting with the discomfort of having that exposed and not pandered to. It's very uncomfortable. It's very direct. It's layer after layer of the heart starts to open. And we do away with grappling with how can I accept this person and what they did to me. What is the right way to now, negotiate the spiritual situation? All those questions are resolved now. All the questions are left behind for a single one-pointed inquiry. Who is it that is concerned about this panning out in a way that is advantageous? And what does it feel like if I simply allow things to pan out in whichever way they want, and the contraction that comes with that needs to be observed and surrendered. That's it. So a much more direct pointing that is on offer today, and as usual it comes from my own process and whatever findings I make along the way. Very curious to hear what you guys make of it, and also as usual, if you think that these videos may be helpful to others, then you're liking, sharing and subscribing. Make the channel more available out there. It's also very motivating. So thanks for listening so far. I'll be back with more videos pretty soon. Cheerio. Bye bye.